Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this live stream section. The Russian President Vladimir Putin have arrived in Tianjin for the SCO summit. So China is in charge of the rotational presidency of the SCO, which is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This year's summit is very interesting, and the leaders of Russia, China, even India, and a host of other countries will be in attendance. And it's starting on the 31st of August to the 1st of September. And a follow up to that as well is the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and the defeat of the Japanese, by China. So President Putin will be in China for a period of about 4 days. He'll be attending this event, and a host of other world leaders as well will be in attendance. So it's an interesting one. If you're just joining, you're welcome. Do well to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like, leave a comment below, and let's jump into the conversation. So, what is going on, guys? The Russian President Vladimir Putin have arrived in Tianjin, China, for a 4-day visit to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit hosted by Xi Jinping. The summit brings together world leaders, including India's Narendra Modi, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, and a host of other world leaders to strengthen political and economic security cooperation. The meeting highlights Beijing and Moscow's push for a post-Western global order, while India remains cautious on joint statements over terrorism and so on and so forth. So India is taking a different position because of what they perceive to be a different stance taken by the rest of the either the SCO, which is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or even the BRICS countries in relation to what India describes as terrorism coming from adversaries in the region, and in particular Pakistan. And these other countries happen to be, very mute about it. Countries like Brazil, for instance, have stated clearly that they are not interested in the dogfight between India and Pakistan, and they are unwilling to condemn Pakistan. So, because Pakistan is also very important strategically for China and for the BRICS country, so is India. India is now the largest country in the world by population. So, there are a host of other issues as well we need to take a look at. So, the Russian President Vladimir Putin is now on ground. He is now in Tianjin. I don't know how to pronounce it again. It's called Tianjin, China, for this summit. Now, let's look at what is really going to happen. So, Russia and China are leading the world in terms of finding an alternative to the current, international architecture. They are looking for a way to neutralize the West, if you like, in terms of the position that the West is taking in relations to a host of other issues. If you look at what is happening recently, after countries like France, United Kingdom, Australia, and a host of other countries, some of them with some sort of conditionalities, announced that they will recognize a Palestinian state, America and Israel started taking steps in order to either intimidate them, in order to bully them, in order to dissuade them from doing so. And now, in the recent events, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that the Palestinian Authority members, the PA members, and all their followers, over 80 members of the Palestinian Authority that will be attending the UN General Assembly Summit. I think it's the 80th anniversary, or the 81st anniversary of the formation of the United Nations, which the UNGA is held every year. So um, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio have decided to cancel their visas and to stop them from attending in New York. Now we need to remember that the office of the United Nations is in New York. That is where the secretariat is, and this is why most of these leaders go every year to attend the summit. And because New York is in the United States, they can decide to deny visa to anybody. Whether you are a diplomat, um, whether you are an ambassador of any country, it doesn't matter. America can use this power to muscle anybody they want. And this is what they have been doing lately. So, these are some of the things we can discuss. If you're just joining, you're welcome. Don't forget to leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you can, and leave your questions. I would take a look at them. So, the Russian President Vladimir Putin will travel to Beijing this week to attend ceremonies marking 80th anniversary of the victory in World War II on the Asian front. For China, the commemoration is more than a historical ritual. It represents the culmination of a century long struggle against foreign domination, from the Opium Wars of the mid 19th century to Japan's defeat in 1945. Now, 19, Russia's public recognition of that struggle and the sacrifices of the Chinese people carries immense symbolic weight for Beijing. So China and Russia are this they form this unholy alliance of partnership. Let's not forget that these countries have fought each other before. So it's not as if everything is rosy and kumbaya. These are not the best of bodies of partners, but necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. So these two countries are finding a way around, the West and the position of the West in terms of, what the West is doing in Africa and what they're doing in Europe. What America has been doing in Ukraine, for instance, pumping all these billions of dollars to Ukraine. So Russia have all these resources, they have all this land, they lack manpower. So Chinese engineers and workers are coming to Russia to work for money. And on the other hand, Russia is selling oil to China. So I mean, it's a match made in heaven, and they have a long border between them. So it's easy for them to form this sort of bond on their eastern border. But Russia's problem is the borders in Europe, right? It is, bordered by these European countries that are seeking to destroy Russia, that are looking to break up Russia. And I was having this conversation with an individual about 2, 3 days ago, and he said, "Yeah, Russia has an expansionist idea and tendency that if you look at the history of Russia, it has been that of taking territories from other people. That the Russians are, they don't make up the chunk of the population. Of course, the Russians make up the chunk of the population, but you have other nationalities within Russia. In fact, Russia have about 21 republics. They have okrugs and oblasts and other federal subdivisions, which covers the interests of these minority nationals and so on and so forth. For instance, the Republic of Tatarstan, Abkhazia, um, the Republic of North Ossetia, if I'm not mistaken. Then there's the Republic of Dagestan and Chechnya. And all these republics represent the different ethnic divisions and nationalities within Russia. So Russia as a federation, put into cognizance this um, multi, this heterogeneous nature of its society, and this is what it has always been for Russia. And for China, China is more of a homogeneous society because 80 to 90% of Chinese are Han Chinese. So it's more homogeneous than Russia. Russia is more heterogeneous. So the reality on the ground is that the Russians are finding a way to solve their own problems, and the West is trying to encircle them, to surround them with all sorts of military alliances, and they are fighting back. All right, so let's continue. But Putin's visit is not just only a gesture towards history, but a signal of unity. Russia and China are presenting the world with a shared vision, both of the past and the future for the global south. It underscores that there is an alternative to Western hegemony. For the West, it is a reminder that the alternative cannot be dismissed. So, as we're seeing, there's likely to be an alternative to this current international system or architecture that has been largely created by the West for their own interest. And the rest of the world is taking notice. I wonder why we are not seeing that. Particularly those of us in Africa, we need to wake up. And I'm sure that the West is doing everything it can in order to um, stop this alliance or to slow it down or to economically cripple China from the sanctions and the tariff regime that we are seeing recently. So, yeah, the Russians are saying enough is enough. We've had enough of you. The idea that you can come to anywhere you want and bully willy nilly, take resources. I mean, take a look at Africa. Over the past 30, 40 years, what have the West done in Africa? Military intervention, coup, intervention of all sorts. And all of a sudden, they woke up because the Chinese are doing it in a different way. China is coming to Africa to take resources as well. But China is saying, don't worry, Africa, we're going to give you roads, we're going to provide you with dams, we are going to provide you with critical infrastructure, technological transfer, and in turn, we take the raw materials that you have and resources that we need for our industries. And we also export labor to your societies because we're building infrastructure. So in order for us to grow our economy, we also export labor. So China is doing it in a very crafty way, but also need African resources. But they are doing that without following the method and the tenets of the West, which is forcing democracy on you, bully, intimidate, blackmail leaders, put them do all sorts of things in order to get all this concession. And for us in Africa, we're saying, hang on a second, China is not intervening in our politics. They're not interested in bombing our leaders like the West did to Patrice Lumumba and all these people. So why should we align with the West? And the West is telling us and giving us this weird education that, oh, you have to be wary of China. You have to be careful about the Chinese. Do not allow them to do X, Y, Z. Do not allow them. Look, it's hypocrisy of the highest order that the West is educating us on who to relate with and when to relate with all these countries. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, hang on a second, is somebody trying to take my wallet? Am I in the market and somebody's trying to steal my wallet? Because the West has been doing exactly the same thing and bombing up on top of it. And then educating us that we have to run away from China. You cannot provide us with the finished products we want at a very low cost. China is doing that. If you buy an equivalent of a mobile phone from America, it will cost 5 times what it would cost to buy from China. If you're buying a drone, a basic civilian drone from China, averagely it will cost you $400 or $500. If it's produced by any American company, it will cost $10,000. Even their healthcare system, their medicine, their pharmaceuticals, everything is so jacked up because of the corrupt nature of the system and because of capitalism. I mean, capitalism is, it's the expropriation of surplus capital, and it is creating this oligarchy. It is creating the system of breeding new billionaires and impoverishing the rest of the world. And I'm not even saying that the Chinese system is perfect. But again, we don't need any sort of education from the West. And this is why alternatives like this are needed. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and we're also looking at things like the BRICS, the group of BRICS country and the new entrance into BRICS are as well, solidifying the economic position of BRICS. And there's still a long way for us to go in order to make this a reality. But the alternative is coming, and the West is really angry about that. And this is why they are bombing countries, intervening in the political affairs of other countries in order for them to preserve their power. You cannot preserve your power by just bombing your way through. And I hope those of us in Africa wake up. So this 4 days visit by the Russian President Vladimir Putin to China will mark, a monumental step in terms of creating alternatives. Tell me what you think about this. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, follow my channel if you can. And when you leave your comments, I will respond to them in my next video. See you.